Okay, everybody. Go ahead and mute everybody who's on the call right now. Looks like we got a good assortment of people here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is our latest week of Public Administration 6123 live Q&A session for this week beginning February the 6th, 2017. And if someone can just text in real quick to tell me that they can hear me, I'd greatly appreciate it. My mic appears to be working, but I do want to make sure. Yep, I'm up. So thank you very much. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, I know that many of you have had a chance to and have started working on the assignment 2, which we're going to take a look at here in just a second. First of all, I just want to take a moment to tell you, overall, y'all's work on assignment 1 was very good. I was very pleased. Y'all should have received emails from me last night with your grades for assignment 1, as well as just some notes. I thought overall the depth of what y'all did was good and was appropriate for what I expected. Some of you got a little too deep. Some of you might needed to fill in some sections here or there with a little more information. But overall, I was very pleased with what y'all did. So, okay, I don't know what to tell if you can't hear. If you can't hear, you may want to choose. If you can't hear, if you're having trouble hearing, you may need to go to a telephone. That would be the option that I would say. So I will go ahead. The main thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to spend most of our time tonight talking about assignment 2 and kind of talk about, talk a little bit about some of the other stuff going on. But the key thing that I do want to spend my time on is talking about assignment 2. And I do kind of just want to, I'm not going to do the work specifically for you because you need to do that, but I do want to talk about some of the information in there and kind of show you some places to look at it, and also kind of give you Ken's tips on Google searching. This is something that I have worked with interns on over the years, somehow just simply how to kind of develop the right search query so that you, when you're using Google or using another search engine, if you use a search engine other than Google. Back when I was an undergrad, some of you were undergrads or high school students back then. You remember back in the late 90s, we had multiple search engines, but that's really not the case anymore. The thing to keep in mind is that with Google, it's actually a pretty good, robust search engine. And if you know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to find what you're looking for, even with all the junk that is out there. When it comes to doing research, particularly statistical research, you can kind of find where you are, but I'm also going to show you some other sites as well. That's going to be a main part of what we're going to do to start off with. And then I will ask some other questions and talk about some other things that we've got going on here this week. Assignment number 2, which you should see the handout for on your screen right now. If you're watching this online, you will see that there's this the assignment, the data work. Let me just explain, and I will write this out in a message that'll go out to everybody. The data needs to be submitted in an Excel document, and then submit your answers to the questions at the end of the assignment in a Word document. So you're going to submit 2 documents. You're going to submit 2 files. You're going to attach 2 files to the email in this assignment. And the first is going to be an Excel document, an Excel spreadsheet that has all of the data that you're working on, including the graphs and charts. And then there's going to be a second file, which is a Word document that's going to have your answers to the questions that are at the end of this assignment. So you've got your data file, which is an Excel, and your answers to the questions at the end of the assignment, which are in a Word document. So that's the first clarification. When I was looking at this assignment originally, the way it was written, I noticed that there were some confusion created by it, because in some cases we actually ask you to pull data back for 45 years. And in other cases, we talk about how deep we're going to look at it for 5 years. And then in terms of how we look at the data, the thing to think about is that for the most part, we're looking at it from the standpoint of when censuses are done, because that allows us to go back further into time. there was a newer product that the Census Bureau developed in the 2000s called the American Community Survey, and that allowed us to collect, that allowed them, the Census Bureau, to collect a tremendous amount of information on an annual basis for especially the larger cities as well as the larger counties in the United States. It was really designed to be able to capture data on an annual basis for metropolitan areas. That product is still there, and it's really nice. Congress kind of sometimes talks about getting rid of it, but it's a nice product to have because it allows us to track data on an annual basis. But most of what the Census Bureau does, including the actual census counts, are done every 10 years. So when you look at that time frame, whether it's listed in the assignment as being from 1990 to 2015 or 1970 to 2015, what you are really being asked to capture is the information at those 10-year marks, 1970, 1980, 1990, and 2000, and in 2010, and then as well 2015, because the 2015 American Community Survey has been completed at a level that all counties in North Carolina participate in. There's a 5-year ACS kind of range survey that's done to try to that's enabled for jurisdictions so that they can participate on an annual basis, even if they're smaller jurisdictions. So let's look at what we have here. I'm going to mute everybody as people come in. So you see here, the first thing we talk about is population and population trend. Now, a member of the student, one of the students did provide some information about population trends, but I just want to show you real quick. It's a very simple calculation. Trend analysis, trend index analysis is wonderful because what it allows you to do is it allows you to track apples, make everything apples to apples so long as the measure is similar. For example, if you wanted to see how your population is doing compared to the national population or the population of your state, how your county population trends, it can be kind of confusing when you're looking at them in their raw numbers because America's population is in the hundreds of millions. Your state's, the North Carolina population's 40-something years ago was in millions. Now it's in the tens of millions. And then there's your population, which could be in the millions or the hundreds of thousands or the tens of thousands, or in some cases, the thousands. And the question is, how does my growth or how does my trend compare to the overall state and to the nation? And that's where trend index, this index population analysis comes into effect. So what you do is that you figure out where your starting point is. And our starting point for a lot of this data is 1970. And so that's your starting point. So whatever the population is in 1970 is an index number of 100. This is how the consumer price index and how the producer price index are also calculated, by the way. So whatever the starting point is for us to measure going forward, that number is 100. So 25,000 equals 100. And that's also would be known as T1970 in this calculation. Then you go from there, and it's a very simple calculation as you see provided. You take this number, say C2, you would divide it by B2, and then that difference there, the difference between those two numbers, you multiply it by 100, and that gives you your index 110, which basically reflects a 10% increase over the 1970 number. And you can see how that tracks over time. You can see that it grows. There's a significant jump in this example, and I just pulled these numbers out of thin air between 1990 and 2000. And then you have 2010 and you have 2015. So let's just say that I was trying to do this at a, let's try to say that I was doing this at a county, state, and national level. I think that if I do this with a 10-year increment, yeah, it'll automatically advance 10. I've got my county number, so I'm just going to carry it over. And then I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to do these county populations. I'm just going to put numbers. I'm just going to put numbers in here. Seems all exciting. I'm just going through this example. Honestly, national population is a lot higher than this, but we're using this as an example. And I just take this calculation, I come down, and of course, because I'm working with the same cell as my origin cell, if you know anything about Excel, if you use a $ between the number and the letter, between the letter and the number in a cell, it locks to the given, actually, we want to lock it to the given, we want to lock it not to B12, we want to lock it to the B, and you have that. Is this right? Yeah. So you have it locked, and in that way I can do it. Actually, I can copy and paste it. And you see there that you have these numbers, and I'm not terribly interested in tens. So we've done this index, and you can see that we actually have kind of an apples to apples comparison of growth as a result of this. You've instead of having these broad numbers as you see here, where you have 25,000 at the county, 1 million at the state, and over 125 million national. Now you have them indexed so that you can track growth. And very simple to do is just to create a line chart. So you would highlight the area, click on Insert. You would go over to your charts. The easiest one to do here is line charts, because each one would have a line. You create a line chart. I'm just going to move that over to its own sheet and just say population trend. And you have a chart. And I always take the lines out of the chart, but you have a chart that you can use now. And with a couple of modifications just to increase the size of certain things, you can see how population trends have compared. And what you find out is that in this particular county example, that the county population growth kind of went along with the national average for a period of time, but fell below the national average. But what it really did was it far was surpassed by overall state growth. So this particular county in the example that I've set, which is a random example, it's not a real example, you can look at this information and indicate that its growth kind of caught up with national growth in 90 and 2000 and has fallen behind the last 15 years. But compared to the way the state has grown overall, has basically fallen behind since 1980. So this would be an example of a state that perhaps was a county that was a manufacturing county, an unskilled manufacturing county that saw itself continue to stay relatively in good shape until about 1980, then saw the declines as a result of manufacturing that may have affected its population. Meanwhile, the state overall transitioned into a different sector or had strengths in other economic sectors, which helped fuel growth as a state overall. And there are states that when you look at this, you could probably say that that's an example of some counties in their states. And I would probably argue that's not as much with respect between county and national, but certainly between county and state. That describes a lot of counties in eastern North Carolina compared to overall state growth in North Carolina. That is certainly the case. So everybody says they did from 1990 to 2015. That's fine. So let's just go ahead and say that, because everyone's been working with it, and I'm glad to see everybody's working with it. So if we will go from 1990 to 2015. If you go back to 1970, just to look at it, you'll see that there's some great information, but we'll clarify that it's from 1990 to 2015. So everybody's correct. 25 years, as it says in the assignment, that should be 1990. We'll consider 1970 just to be a slip of the keyboard from that perspective. Going back now to looking at the next thing. So you have a chance to look at it with respect to population. Then you have population projections, projected population. That information is available. That information is available at the national level and at the state level. You can actually find it from the state of North Carolina. So I want to go, there's a website called www.osbm.nc.gov. This is the State Office of Budget and Management, and the State Office of Budget and Management actually oversees North Carolina's statistics, particularly with respect to population. States provide information to the federal government. They do it for themselves, and then they provide it to the federal government. The Department of Commerce oversees all the labor data that is then pushed up the chain to the federal government. But when it comes to population and demographics, that information is done by the Office of State Budget and Management. And so we can go to facts and figures from their website today. And you see that they've got a whole bunch of different estimates. And you see that they actually have municipal estimates and county projections. And so you click on county projections. And what you find is you've got these annual county populations. And actually you could pull these up and look at, say, you could look at what those county populations are, and you have that information. So if you went down to annual county populations, you would see that if, like, for example, we wanted to click on 2000, 2009, you would see that they have annual populations in there for counties, and you could pick the ones out for your county. You could do the same thing and say you want to look at projections. You could look at projections for your county from 2020 to 2029. So there's a projection in there for each year. It is available as an Excel file if you want it, or you could simply just type it in since you're only working with one county. But for example, we look at Edgecombe. If you were to look at Edgecombe, you would see that the trend based on what's been going on is going down each year, but you're only interested in it in 10-year increments. You're not going to pull it for every year. But at least that information is there for you to look at with respect to the trends of your county. So then you have your population by age. Again, this information is available. If you go back to the page we looked at before, you see all of these various projections as well as other information, but you can see age groups total. You have these various groups. Go back for a second. You have information there about various, this is projections total. Those are those at, I believe, let me just take a look. Those are available by county, but you can see, you can actually look at the projection by individual age for each county in 2016. And that information is there. But you also have the ability to go look at population by age group on a census level. And that is actually through a different product that the state has. Going back to the OSBM page, they have another product that they use called Log into North Carolina. It's also known as Link. And if I click on that, it goes to this product called Link. And what it allows you to do, and I'm just going to say, I don't think anybody has Alamance County. So I'm going to do Alamance County for this example. And this is an older system, by the way. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, this is an older system. So when you look at it, you wonder why it's a little old, why it works the way it does. It's an older system. So I'm going to click Alamance County. You also see that you can actually look at North Carolina as well. So I could also click on North Carolina, but you continue. Then it has all this information, and it allows you to pick different groups. And you can see there's a lot of different statistical groups over here. What this resource does is it pulls a lot of information from different sources, including federal sources like the Census Bureau, and it kind of collects this information and tries to provide it on a per county basis. And they do their best to update it. So it is an active an active product that the state of North Carolina maintains, even though it's an older system in terms of its design. But there's a lot of information here that you might be needing later on that you can pull. So, for example, you have your age groups here. So, like, we wanted to look at population. You want to look at different population groups, you could look at that. If you want to look at different races, you could look at that. You could look at it from the standpoint of different genders. But let's just say I wanted to look at populations from 0 to 4, 5, 6 to 9, 10, 12, 16 to 17, 24, and I just go through this. And I'm just going to go up to 40 to 49 for this example, but you would obviously want to go up even further. You click on continue. And then you have these years, and you can see that you have all these years, not only current years, but future years. For this case, if I remember correctly what the assignment said, we want to know population by age 90, 2010, 2010, 2000, 2010, and 2015. So what that tells me is I go back to the website, and I pick 1990, 2000, 2010, and then 2015. Click on report, and you can see that it's provided that information. And you can see that that information is provided by year for each group. So, and you can see also that information is available by race, but you have the total. You also have it by race and by gender as well. So that information is pretty deep, and it also provides you some information on the backgrounds for that data. So this is a great resource to use, and there's a lot of the information. A lot of these samples that you see there are on there, including racial and ethnic components, educational attainment, I believe. With educational attainment, you only have to do it for 2 periods. We just want to look at between 1990 and 2015, and I'll show you where you can find that. And then we'll talk a little bit about migration here in a second. So going back to educational attainment, one great place to find that type of information, let's go back to the OSBM. Go back to link. And all you got to do is just go backwards. And let's go back. I'm going to click on Alamance again. And I want to look at education. And you can see that you have this data here. And what we're looking at from an attainment standpoint is we want to know I think, let me look back at the assignment. When we talk about educational attainment, what we're talking about is high school and college. That's really what we're looking at. So when we talk about educational attainment, we want to see about people who have a high school diploma. So let's look at high school graduates age 25 and up and college graduates 25 and up. That's really what we're taking a look at. So pull that information. I want to delete the rest of this because we don't need it because that was tied to population. It's those 2 items I want to look at. You see down there in the status, you actually have the ability to kind of set your range. And I'm just doing some quick housekeeping. Click on continue. And you can see here, it gives you 1990, 2000, and 2010. You may ask, okay, where can I get the 2015 data? I will show you. You would click on report, and you can see that you have these attainment numbers. And if you go back and you think about what you did for those particular years with respect to population, you could actually pull that information with respect to population. So you've got your 1990 number here that you could take a look at what your based on what you had calculated as your population for 25 and up. You take that population and you divide this in it, and gives you an idea of your attainment rate, the percentage of your total population over the age of 25 that's either graduated from high school or graduated from college. So what about 2015? Well, that's easy to find because it's actually available, because the Census Bureau does track it in another document known as the American Fact Finder. And the American Fact Finder is a pretty good document, and it is great because you can go advanced or you can go simple. Most of what you're trying to look for, you should be able to look for in community facts. So let's just say that I was looking at the community facts for Alamance County, North Carolina. It brings it up. Click on go. And then I have all of this data that it has collected. And you can see it actually provides you with a population. Well, what I want is education. So I'm going to click on education. And it says in this percent high school graduate or higher. Well, I need a little more because I'm trying to work it, but you can see that data is available for 2015 because it's captured it in the 2015 American Community Survey. So what I do is I click on the option because it's already up here for 2015 for educational attainment. And I go to the report and it'll take a second to load. And I'm zooming this in so that you can see it on screen. You will see you've got here population 25 years and over. It's already done the number, and it already has the information that you have high school graduate, and then you have various things. Now with this one, what you would do is you would add these three totals here of associate degree, bachelor's degree, or graduate or professional, because when they do this survey, they ask for the highest attainment level. So you would add these percentages. So what you would find is in terms of high school degree, you add everything here. You add 28.5% to 6.8. You would add all of these numbers together, and that would give you a percentage of those who have a high school who are a high school to graduate. Then for those who have a college degree, you would add these last three. So the number for high school graduates would be 28 plus 5 plus 23.4 plus 9.6 plus 14.8 plus 6.8. And then college degree would be 9.6 plus 14.8 plus 6.8. And those would be your percentages. So this information is available. And you can see, because this American Community Survey has now been done on an annual basis since 2009, as well as with the census, we can actually go back and look at prior years. So we can take a look at how these numbers change here in this report from 2015 to 2014 to 2013 and so on, all the way back to 2009. So the final year of this report, you can pull from the American, from the Census Fact Finder for 2015. For 1990, you can pull the information from the state product, the LINC product that the state has. So that's an example of pulling data from two sources, but the data is the same because it's all been put together by the Census Bureau. And it's a lot easier to work with than a lot of those tables that are out there. A lot of this data for a long time was kept in tables that you had to learn how to cipher. And what's happened with the Census Bureau is that they've kind of gone away from that and don't manage it as well as they used to. And it makes it harder for you to try to figure out. You don't have to break if you've already done it. I'm trying to. I'm getting a lot of questions here, so let me take a look at it really quickly. Okay, we answered the 1990 question. 5-year increments. Again, you don't have to do 5-year increments. I would probably say stick to the tens, but if you've done the 5, don't go back and not do it. Okay. Do your best to collect as much data as you can. Okay. Didn't add the degrees or the high school years. Do we need to start over? In other words, mine is broke down per degree. That's fine. If you want to show it that way, that's fine. If that's what you want to show, that's fine. I'm just showing you what the minimum, what to me, when I look at educational attainment is. Again, you're trying to put this information together. We could have developed this to say, do everything this certain way. But I will tell you this, when you're a graduate student, you kind of have to think to yourself what really makes the most sense. Maybe there's more I could do on my part to try to better explain that. But from the standpoint of this, when it comes to educational attainment, the two things that I look at, because it's what I know that we are compared to by other jurisdictions when they look at our educational attainment, the first thing they look at is high school graduation. That's the standard for everybody, regardless of the industries or sectors that you have in your economy. High school graduation, everybody looks at. The next thing that they look at when they're trying to look at, okay, where do we put those high-tech businesses like those ones that you saw in the Golden Triangle of Mississippi? Who has those who have college degrees? And that's really where it starts to get more important. And for example, if you look at a lot of Eastern North Carolina counties and you were to compare them with the state average, but especially if you were to compare them with the counties that are, say, in the Triangle or in the Charlotte area, or in the western part of the state, or even in Wilmington, comparing Wilmington to the rest of the eastern third of the state, you would find that there's a significant difference in the college graduate population. Then there are places like Greenville, they're going to have a high percentage because, well, they're home to a university. There are a lot of college graduates there. And when I mean they're home to a university, they're home to a large public state 4-year institution that also has graduate programs. I can tell you right now, having grown up in a town that had one that's smaller than Greenville, but in a lot of ways is very similar to Greenville, that having a university that's a publicly supported university, a state university that has a 4-year program and has graduate programs, those schools have a significant impact on who the population is in that given area. So that's just something to think about as well. So I hope that this is being of help. Let's go back to the recent components of change. Talk about migration. This is always fun. We go back to Fact Finder because Fact Finder actually has it pretty well organized on that. Go back to Community Facts, and what you see, you have a couple of different options, and I have to remember how it's organized. And I'll be honest, I'm a little rusty on this part, even though I've looked at it very recently. There's a lot of information on housing, and I'm not seeing it. So what you do here is that this is time to talk about using Google. And it's very simple. When you're looking for data, when you're looking for a data set and you're like, well, where's this data set? I will tell you right now, the place to look to do your first search is on Google. And what you type, the first thing you do is you type census. First thing you do is type census. And of course, it immediately goes to the small bar at the top of Chrome. So you may or may not see this, so you have to listen. The first thing you do is type census. And then I want to look at migration data. So I go county migration data. And actually you see that it came Census Bureau, county to county migration. That's not exactly what I want. I want to look at county net migration data. So I'm going to type that. And you see the first option is county to county migration flows. That goes to a really good service that they do, where they do a lot of their own analysis and research, and they can try to figure out if your county is pushing people out or people in. It actually tries to tell you pretty close where those people are coming from. Like, for example, there's migration that occurs between Nash and Edgecombe counties here in North Carolina, as well as Pitt County and other counties of eastern North Carolina, and traffic going to and from Wake County or Durham County or Orange County or even Mecklenburg County. And it'll tell you, we estimate there's probably 35 people leaving your county going to Mecklenburg, and there's probably maybe 30 or 40 coming back. So there may be a net flow, but what we're not looking at it that deeply. So don't look at it that deeply. What we want to look at is what they call migration and geographic mobility. If I'm correct, I could be wrong. You have data. You see here it comes to the site where it talks about migration. You click on data, and then you kind of work through it. Data products, and then it shows you, hey, look, there's data in the American Community Survey. Let's go back to the sample. I don't think we asked this components of change. We asked for from 1990 to 2000. So we can actually go back. So 2010, and you can see you have flows, geographic mobility 2005 to 2010. Apparently, when this was originally written, there was this belief that there was information from 2000 to 2010, but we do have it from 2005 to 2010. So this would be a case where you would do it in 5-year increments starting in 1990, from 1990 to 2010. I don't know. It doesn't look like those. So let's just look at example of like geographical mobility. If someone has seen it, they can certainly type it in the chat where they have seen it. Yeah, it does get frustrating. I'll be very honest to admit that. But we've got these historic migration geographic mobility tables. So let's go to that one. So it shows mobility, and I am trying. I'm going to see, does this allow us to do it locally? I don't think it does. I have a feeling that this is national. So let's go back. Geographic mobility, 2005, 2010. Then you have to kind of look through it, and you can see everything is in Excel. And then it talks about distances. And the last time I worked on mobility was about a year ago. And I remember it being a lot easier than this. So the other thing to do is to go into the census shot and do it there. Okay, I'm going to go back to Fact Finder because I remember seeing it on Fact Finder. Sometimes you just have to go. Here's the thing. When you go from this screen here, from this community fact screen and Fact Finder, what you'll need to do now is go a little deeper. And I'm going to have to back up some to be able to show this to you. What you need to do is go back to main, and you're going to need to do what they call an advanced search. Not too hard to do, but the data is there. So we go to, the first thing to do is pick geographies. You want to pick your geography. So you click on geographies, you select the geographic type, you're going to select a county, which is below state. You're going to select your state, which should be North Carolina. Then you're going to select your county, click on add to your selections. This adds it to your selection group. And then close out. That's limited only to Alamance County. Then you click on topics, and you've got housing. And I'm trying to remember where it's under. But I can also go to search. So what I want to go do is type in migration, previous residents, click on go, and you'll see there, okay, this data is now by county, and we're able to look at it for a set number of years. I think we're going to show, you can see that you can actually go back to 1990. So we can go back to 2000 from here, and then we can do 2010, and then we can do 2015. So you have 2000, 2010, and 2015. So I tell you what, for the mobility assignment, because of the way I see it and making it the easiest, if you have got your 1990 data, congratulations, I'm proud of you. But if you haven't, you do for your mobility data, it's from 2000 and then 2010 and 2015. So you could go back to 2000, in which case it'll have sample data. And you're looking at, you can see there, imputation of mobility status. I believe that's what we're looking at. Nope, that's just registry. Looking to see what they have. And you can see there's a lot of just basic data here. Profiles of selected social characteristics. This one is used a lot. It's kind of like a summary data sheet. And you can see the data. Residents in, this was back in 2000, and it said residents, different, same county, different county. So what you would know is if the population was trying to think of the right way to put this, different house in the U.S., you could say 42% of the public lived in a different county, lived in a 24%, and I'm trying to look at this. Yeah, 24% lived elsewhere. It was actually 24.5% plus 2.8 because it's different county. I'm trying to look. I'm sorry. I apologize. You had 18% within the state, within the nation, that domestic migration plus 2.8% foreign migration. So you had a total migration of 21.1%. So you would say that in 2000, when you look at migration, it's been 5 years or longer. And again, this is kind of a situation where the way this assignment is written, you're kind of expected to interpret it a little bit. It's not all put out there the way it is typically for undergrads. But you can see here with migration, you have 18.3% in 2000 compared to where you were 5 years earlier in 1995. 18.3% of the people came from a different county or different state, plus 2.8%. So total of 21.1% inbound migration since over the previous 5 years. Going back, and it does pull up. We look at 2010. Geographic mobility by selected characteristics. This is a little better because it's done based on the ACS. And you can see that there's more data here. So you can work with it. You can work with it based on the information. And what I might actually do, if I can find, I will look at it tonight, and if I can find a good solid source for mobility data, I will find it. Yeah, you want the ACS 5-year, 3-year, 1-year. Do the 5-year because everybody has access to the 5-year. Not everybody has access to a 3 or a 1. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to skip mobility. So I'm going to type this in the text. This week we will skip mobility. And the reason why we can skip it this week and then work on it next week is because we're going to look at location quotients. And it's not a bad time to look at mobility when we do location quotients, which will be part of our discussion next week. So we'll do that. Thanks, people. I appreciate it. So going back to the example, labor force levels, those are as part of the census. So you should be able to find it. The ninth, that should be tied to the census. Let me go back to link. I'm just going to run link new. If I'm correct, you also have here net migration. You do have migration here, and you can pull it up at the county level, but we are going to hold off on it. But migration is available. You can see that you have migration available for 2010. You can see what the net migration looks like there. But let's just I want to look at something real quick. There is, if I'm correct, employment. Yeah, labor force. So labor force information is available. Go to labor force by type or by place of residence. And I believe, again, 90, 2000, 2010, and 2015, pretty easy to pull up. And you can see that you've got information about your labor force over that time, and you can kind of track how it's changed. And in the case of Alamance County, which is the area around kind of close to, I think that's Burlington, you can see that it didn't really grow much between 2000 and 2010, but it's grown significantly since 2010, which is an interesting fact. You could probably look at it year to year and see more volatility, but what you definitely do see is not much growth in a 10-year period and then substantial growth in a 5-year period. Yes, I do have a heart. Some people may not think so, but do try to do my best. Just be nice, y'all, because I can choose not to have one if I wanted to. we have a former vice president who technically does not have a working heart at this point. So, which is a tremendous marvel of medical science. Let's see here. So you have the ability to look at that at a county level, look at it at a state level, and then also look at it nationally. And that information is available. If you want the national data, you saw that the state data is available. If I'm correct, go back to that. If I'm correct, the state data, state data is available in Link. If you want national data, you just go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I showed you that before. You go to bls.gov and you can pull labor force data from there, or you can pull it from the census. The census should have national labor force data. You would have to look that up. I'm not going to show you how to do it, but that data should be pretty easy to find at the national level as well as at the county level and state level. Going into some other examples, and of course, rate of change you should be able to do. You see there the list. Again, that information, the Link program provides it, if I'm correct, because if I go back, if I go continue, and I look at, again, I look at employment, you will see monthly employment is available. Employment by place of residence is available. So that is there. So you have a lot of employment data here that's annualized that you can use. So there's a lot of information for you to look at. Most of what you need for this report is available from Link. Not everything. Some of it you have to go to the census for, but a lot of it is available in Link. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Let's see here. Going back, and again, you only need one variable from that list there. So you see, you've got unemployment level, you got employment levels, unemployment rate, or unemployment rate performance or business cycles. Again, going to the business cycles, that ties into recessions and recovery. If you have done anything with Fred, and I think one person did, you see here, this is a chart of all the different cycles. And since 1990, when we would be doing this, we've had 3 recessionary cycles from July of 90 to March of 91. That's one of the shortest that we've ever had. It lasted a total of 3 quarters. Then we had, and I apologize, we had March of 2001 to November of 2001, again, a 3-quarter recession. And then we had December 27, 2007 to June of 2009. That, of course, was perhaps one of the longer periods that we've had in the nation's history. If you look back, we've had much shorter ones. That was a long period that lasted more than a year, lasted a year and a half. So there is information to take into consideration. But also, if you use Fred, if you use the St. Louis Fed analytics program, also called Fred, when you do charts in there, and if you pull the charts back, it actually shades the recessionary periods differently, so you can see those in that as well. Let's go to see. You've got labor force participation rate. Again, that's something you can take a look at, and I would honestly argue that that is something that's very important when we're looking at it, because it goes back to who's participating in the economy. Does a locality have a strong workforce? And you've got labor force by place of residence. Trying to see if you've got employment information. I was trying to see if the participation rate is here. I do believe that is something that's included in census data. So you find 1990 to 2010, it is something that's included in the census data. But that's something you don't have to provide. That is something you can choose to provide if you want to. Going back to the assignment again, other calculations. There is if you wanted to, it's something that you can think of, and this might be something to think of in the future, is figuring out dependency ratio. And it kind of shows you this. This is important because when economic developers are looking at a given area, they're looking at what's the population like from the standpoint of the population that can be productive to the population that likely is not going to have as great of productivity. And typically the situation is, how many people that are either children or elderly do you have for the population of people you have that are ideal working age? And what you see there is the calculation. And it's basically the population from ages 0 to 18, so those who are in school, and particularly in today's market where younger people don't get jobs as much as they used to. That's the reason why it's 18 now. Probably 20 years ago, it would have been 16. And also because we expect them to graduate high school, so we have to give them. And you take that and you divide it into your key labor force age population, which is 19 to 64. And obviously, you want that dependency ratio to be as small as possible. It's not, you don't, well, I should take that back. You want it to be small, but you don't want it to be too small. And the reason you don't want it to be too small is that if it's too small, then that's perhaps an indication that you don't have enough children. And the challenge without having enough children is then who is going to replace your workforce? So it's not entirely a situation of, well, we want to have it be, we want it to be 0. No, that's not what you want. What you want is a healthy dependency ratio. And I would say you want that when you look at your age, if you were comparing populations from 0 to 18 to 65 and up, whereas there are advantages in terms of having customers that are 65 and up in terms of the services that you provide them, you also have to remember you still have that part of the population is not going to renew itself. They're not going to transition back into being necessarily productive. They're not producers, they're consumers. Whereas the population between 0 and 18 is a producer population. That's your next generation of producers. So there are differences there to think about with respect to those two population groups. And then we've talked about the data sources, and you have then your analysis questions down here at the bottom that we ask you to do. So again, data needs to be in an Excel sheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and the answers to the questions that start on page 3 and continue to page 4 need to be in a Word document. And I hope that that does a better job of explaining what you need to do with assignment 2. But again, great source for you to use for North Carolina information at the county level is Link Login to North Carolina. If you Google search Link, you should be able to find it. I would type in NC space Link if I was Googling it. Also, American Fact Finder does a good job. And then sometimes it's just as simple as typing in, like say, if I wanted to look at the 1990 census data, type in my name, 1990 census data, Alamance County, and what you find is that there is a lot of data here. In fact, this data is here, and a lot of it, and at the very worst, it's in PDF format. And I know that's not what you want to hear, but there were these great back in the old days, they used to print big, gigantic, thick books, and you can go through there and pull the data if you had to, just as you see right there. To go back to 1990. I know that's what nobody wants to do, and trust me, I don't like it either, but sometimes I've had to do it even in my job, but that data is there. Agencies only have so much money to put into their systems, so a lot of times it's just easier for them to scan documents and load them up in FTP. A lot of people who do this for a living hate that. So there are people who are asking about time extensions. I cannot give until the end of the week, but what I will do, and I actually thought about this yesterday because of the timing, is I am going to give until Thursday. So in the email that comes out, my plan is that everybody will have, I am going to extend it until 11:59 p.m. So everybody will have at least 72 hours. To do the work from here to there. I will get this video uploaded as soon as we're done, and I will encourage people to take a look at it. So this video will be up as quickly as I can get it. I may have to do it from, I may have to wait a little bit because it takes a little bit of time on the end, on everybody's end to do it, but it will be there. Stop thanking me. But that is how we're going to take a look at it. So looking now at I want to look at, I did want to take a look at, I'm still working through assignment 3, and assignment 3 will be posted tomorrow. But I am running into some issues that I need to take care of. I've turned off screen share for just a second. I'm still working through some issues on it. So the reason why you haven't seen it is because there's some things that I've run into that are some of the issues similar to what we saw with the problems we've been having with this assignment, and I'm trying to work through them. So what I want to do with the last time we have left is I want to take a quick look at the course schedule, and I'm going to go ahead and make 1 or 2 quick adjustments to it, because I know, first of all, I'm been late in getting assignments and getting these lectures done, but also the fact was I had assigned that there were 2 reading assignments that I want to talk a little bit about that were listed in here, and I'm going to have to follow up with Olga because I have not been able to find one of them at all. And so let me just go ahead and bring them up. So hold on just a second, because these are things that you should be reading along with your chapters. This week, when you get a chance, after you've read, after you've finished up your assignment, which is now due on Thursday. It's due on Thursday the 9th. Income and earnings profile still for now due on the 15th. But this assignment is due on the 9th. You'll see there that there was an assignment that was made, Labor Force Surveys and Economic Development Program, from a journal called Economic Development Review. I have been having a hard time trying to find this publication, and I may just have to break down and talk to Olga about it, because it's not something that I've been able to find. The next one, Location Quotient, I will have that available. I will verify that that is available by the end of this week. That's an important one because you will be doing work with location quotients moving forward. So you definitely need to read that one. In terms of your chapter readings, we do have chapter 10 that you should read this week, as well as chapter 9 for next week. This lecture, this conversation I've had on human capital is kind of the, I guess you could say, the technical part of it, but I do want to spend a little more time talking about human capital, which I will with a subsequent lecture. I know I'm behind on lectures, and I'm trying to get caught up with those, and hope to have several published, and hope to have several posted online. The YouTube channel is available, and of course people should know where that is and be using it. And that's important because that is available to everybody. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it from your computer. You don't necessarily have to be into Blackboard, be logged into Blackboard to use it. And I do try to do my best to mark the lectures tied to the given weeks. Everything is tied either to a week code or to a day in which I record a Q&A. So that is where we are at this point. And by the end of next week, I'll be able to be more certain about what's going to be on the midterm as well. Next week, when we get together for the Q&A, I'll know more specifically about what I'm going to have on the midterm. Everybody should expect an email from me either tonight or first thing in the morning, where I explain, where I kind of remind people about the date. But I will send out an announcement actually before I leave here to give information about when our next assignment when the next assignment is due. And that, of course, will be on Thursday rather than on Wednesday. So the assignment is due. Your population and labor force profile is due by 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, February 9th. So it's 24 extra hours. I couldn't really give until Friday because I want to try to do some of the grading on Friday. And my goal, again, will be to finish the grading and have it done by the end of the weekend so that you have it, so that you kind of know where you are as you're finishing up your work on your assignment for the coming week. I know this has been kind of tough because you're having to do one assignment a week. But again, that's really the key right now. We'll kind of work through the readings and through everything else as we have time. And I appreciate everybody for their patience. It is a little bit of a challenge trying to do a class online in terms of in a live semester. But I appreciate everyone, and I hope people are getting something out of this. I hope this is actually of value. And of course, there are lectures for you to view. Some of you have viewed them, and I appreciate it. and also need to remember the reading assignment that you guys have. I don't know if anybody's really taken advantage of it yet, but of course to remember that everybody before the end of this semester needs to have read one scholarly article and done a review on it and posted it as a discussion board in our as a discussion forum in our discussion board, and also one non-academic professional media article. That's something you all need to be doing as well. Are there any other questions? You can put them in chat if you'd like. Okay. Seeing that there are no other questions that have been posed, I'm going to go ahead and close out for tonight. Thank you very much for your participation, and I will talk to you all next week. And of course, look forward to seeing your assignments getting your assignments by 11:59 p.m. Thursday night. Thank you very much.